Thank you so much for tuning into my channel. I'm Reshawna Leaven, Realtor with KW United. Today I'm going to talk about the buyer agency agreements in Northern Virginia. Stay tuned. So there are 6 paragraphs on this page, and so the first is the date that the agreement was started, the buyer, the appointment of the broker to assist with the buyer's needs, buyer representations, the purpose of the actual agreements, and notices what's the buyer's mailing address, their home address, work address, cell phone, email, broker firm information. All of these things need to be filled out completely. Termination of the agreement. So if there is no end date, then it actually terminates 90 days after the agreement date, which you should always have a termination date. But if there is no date there, it's 30 days after the date was signed, after the agreement was signed. And in paragraph 5, the important thing to note here is, should termination be without good cause, buyer will pay broker X in an early termination fee prior to executing the release of a broker representation agreement, in addition to any compensation otherwise to this agreement. And paragraph 6, broker duties. What is the broker responsible for? That continues on to page 2. Then what is the buyer responsible for? And then we talk about compensation. So the broker compensation is fully negotiable and is not fixed, control, recommended, or suggested by law or any multiple listing service or association of realtors. So paragraph 1 of 8, buyer broker compensation. The buyer will pay the broker in an amount of a percentage of the sales price, or another fixed amount. If the broker receives any compensation from the seller or a seller representative of services covered by the agreement, that amount will be credited towards the buyer's obligation to pay broker compensation. And it talks about what happens within a certain amount of time for compensation to be earned. And now we go to page 3. Is the broker charging a retainer fee? Is there a service fee also? So a retainer fee is not the same thing as a service fee. So to retain your services, so think of an attorney. In order for them to start working on your behalf, they charge a certain fee. And paragraph 6 is just a flat fee that they just charge at the end of settlement. Property types. So it's not limited to what's in the MLS. It could be a new construction home, an off-market property for sale by owner, etc. Paragraph 9, relocation program. If you're in a relocation program, you need to state that. Type of representation, understanding what that is. Seller representation, buyer representation, designated representation. Do you agree to it? Do you not agree to it? Which means if you agree to it, you consent to it. If you don't agree to it, that means you do not consent to it. Dual representation is when the same agent represents both parties. And so we move on to page 4, paragraph 11, compliance with fair housing laws. All properties must abide by the fair housing laws. Paragraph 12, buyer defaults. Paragraph 13 is attorney fees. If any default on any party and attorneys need to get involved, it talks about who pays for that and how that works. Paragraph 14 is if the buyer has an inactive or active real estate license, because that actually has to be disclosed to the other party because you have more knowledge than the typical person and you have a license. Paragraph 15 is definitions. So that's agency relationship and broker relationship, what those things are. And so we're getting to the final stretch. Page 5, disclaimers. It's talking about professional services. So a real estate agent is not a tax attorney. They're not a tax advisor. They're not a lender. They're not an appraiser, a surveyor, a structural engineer. So they cannot provide you those types of professional advice because they are not professionals in that field. They're professionals as an agent. Paragraph B of 16 is Megan's Law. So the buyer should exercise a due diligence deemed necessary with learning about the criminal records exchange. As paragraph C, wire fraud, talks about that. Service provider referrals. Paragraph 17, miscellaneous paragraph here. Paragraph 18 is talking about in the event of any provision in this agreement is determined to be unenforceable, the remaining terms and provisions of the agreement shall not in any way be affected, impaired, or invalid. Paragraph 19 is additional provisions. And that brings us to the final page, which is the signature page. Note: buyers should consult with buyer agent before viewing any resale or new home or contacting any other real estate agents representing sellers to avoid the possibility of confusion over brokerage relationship and misunderstandings about liability for compensation. So that means if you have an agent, your agent needs to be representing you. They need to contact the other party, not you, in short. And so if you're buying the home with someone else, they would sign along with you in dates. Then that agreement will be sent over to the broker or sales manager to sign. At the end, it would have the buyer agent information with the name. If they're on a team, it'll have that. It'll have the cell number, fax. I don't know why they even put that on this new document, but it's there. That's funny to me. So it's there. And then the supervising broker contact information. And so that's the end of this tutorial on the new updates for August. And since we have the new regulations of having to have this agreement in place before you view any homes. So remember that you cannot view any homes with a realtor without an agreement in place. Whether that agreement is for a day, for a week, for 2 weeks, for a month, for several months, or a year, you have to have it in place. And you need to have a pre-approval because you need to know what your buying power is. So thank you so much for watching. I hope this was informative to you. I didn't want to make it too long, but I wanted to give you some insight of what the new agreement looks like because it can be scary if you don't know what it is. And if you would like to talk to me about how I can assist you with buying a home in the future, let's talk about it. 240-284-4114. Until the next video, I'm Reshawna Leaven, Realtor with KW United.